They say you never really know someone until money's involved. I learned that lesson at 63 years old, standing in my own hallway, invisible, while my son and his wife laughed about how stupid I was. She's nothing but our personal cash machine, my daughter-in-law scoffed. My son, my beautiful boy who I'd carried for 9 months, nursed through colic, put through college, grinned like she'd just told the funniest joke he'd ever heard. I walked away without a word. Next morning, their world came crashing down. Before I tell you what I did, I need you to understand how I got there. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from, because this story? It happened in suburban Ohio, but I have a feeling betrayal sounds the same in every language. And if you've ever been taken advantage of by the people you loved most, stick around. Check the description box below for more stories like this, because you're not alone. Neither was I. I thought I'd done everything right. 28 years of marriage to Daniel, who worked himself to death at 59. Literally. Heart attack in the driveway, briefcase still in his hand. Our son Jeffrey was 26 then, fresh out of grad school with a business degree and big dreams. I was 55, newly widowed, and Daniel had left me comfortable. Not rich but comfortable. The house was paid off. There was life insurance. A decent investment portfolio. Retirement accounts. Jeffrey had always been my miracle. We tried for years before he came along, went through 3 miscarriages that nearly broke me. When he finally arrived, healthy and screaming, I promised God and myself I'd give him everything. And I did. Piano lessons, soccer camps, SAT tutors, that semester abroad in London that cost more than my first car. Daniel and I sacrificed plenty, but we never let Jeffrey see us struggle. We wanted him to reach for the stars without fear. After Daniel died, Jeffrey became my anchor. He'd call every Sunday, visit twice a month, asked how I was managing. It felt like a gift, having a son who actually cared, who didn't just dump his widowed mother in a corner and forget about her. My friends whose kids barely called were jealous. You raised him right, they'd say. Then Jeffrey met Brittany. She was 28 to his 31, blonde and bright-smiled, worked in pharmaceutical sales. Confident. Ambitious. I tried to like her, I really did. But there was something in the way she looked at things. At my house. At my jewelry. At me. Like she was calculating value. During their engagement, she'd comment on everything. Oh, this neighborhood must be worth quite a bit now. Is that a real Tiffany lamp? Jeffrey mentioned you got a good life insurance payout. I told myself I was being paranoid. Overprotective. The stereotypical mother-in-law who thought no woman was good enough. They married 3 years ago, and I wrote them a check for $20,000 as a wedding gift. Brittany hugged me, but her eyes were already distant, looking past me toward the next thing. The requests started small. Mom, our car broke down. Could you help with the repairs? Just $1,500. Of course I could. He was my son. Mom, Brittany's student loans are crushing us. Could you pay off a chunk? Maybe $10,000. It seemed reasonable. I wanted them to get ahead. Mom, we need a down payment for a condo. The rental market is insane. Could you help us out? $30,000 would change our lives. I liquidated part of my portfolio. What else was I going to do with it? I was alone. They were building a future. Over 3 years, I gave them close to $80,000. Sometimes outright gifts. Sometimes loans that were never mentioned again. I'd stopped keeping track because it felt petty. This was my son. My only child. My legacy. But I'd started noticing things. The designer handbags Brittany carried. The weekend trips to Miami, Nashville, Cabo. The new leased BMW. Jeffrey's Rolex, not a knockoff, the real thing. And whenever I'd gently mention that maybe they should budget better, Brittany would get this tight smile and Jeffrey would change the subject. Last month, they invited me to dinner at their condo. I brought wine and flowers, excited because they'd been distant lately. When I arrived, I noticed immediately, new furniture. Expensive stuff. A sectional that probably cost $6,000. A massive TV mounted on the wall. Fresh hardwood floors. Wow, I said. You guys have really fixed this place up. Brittany waved dismissively. Oh, we saved up. Tax return, bonuses, you know. But I knew what Jeffrey made. And I knew Brittany's commission structure because she'd complained about it enough. The math didn't math. Still, I smiled. I ate the overcooked chicken. I complimented the wine they'd bought with what I suspected was my money. Then, 2 weeks ago, Jeffrey called. His voice had that edge it got when he wanted something. Mom, Brittany and I are going to Europe for our anniversary. We've been so stressed, and we really need this trip. But things are tight right now with the new furniture and everything. Could you help us out? Maybe 5,000. Something in me snapped. Not loudly. Not even visibly. But quietly, deep in my chest, a small voice said, enough. Jeffrey, I said slowly, I've given you and Brittany nearly $80,000 in 3 years. I think you can manage this one on your own. Silence. Long, cold silence. Wow. His voice turned sharp. I can't believe you're keeping score. After everything we've done for you. What have you done for me? We visit you, Mom. We include you in our lives. Do you know how many guys my age don't even talk to their parents? You should be grateful. Grateful. I let him go. Told him I needed to think. But that word rattled around in my skull for days. Grateful. For being bled dry. For being used. I decided I needed to know the truth. Was I being unfair? Was I a bitter old woman who couldn't let her son grow up? So I drove to their place unannounced one evening. I told myself I'd apologize, maybe talk things through like adults. I still had my key from when I'd helped them move in, but I didn't want to barge in, so I knocked first. No answer. I could hear voices inside, laughter. I knocked again. Still nothing. That's when I used the key. I wasn't trying to sneak. I called out, Jeffrey? It's Mom. Nothing. I walked toward the kitchen, where the voices were coming from. And then I heard it. She's such a pushover, Brittany said, voice dripping with contempt. I swear, Jeffrey, I just mentioned something, asterisk anything asterisk, and she writes a check. It's almost too easy. She's lonely, Jeffrey replied. And she's got nothing else to do with her money. Honestly, we're probably doing her a favor. Gives her life purpose. They both laughed. She's nothing but our personal cash machine, Brittany scoffed. Your mom is the best investment we ever made. My son, my baby, grinned. I know, right? And the best part? She'll never say no. She's too afraid I'll stop calling. I stood there in the hallway, frozen. My purse slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. They didn't even hear it. I turned around. Walked out. Got in my car. Drove home in complete silence. And when I got there, I sat at my kitchen table and cried until I had nothing left. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you'd have died for, you know that feeling. Like the floor just disappeared and you're falling through your own life. Drop a comment if you've been there. You're not alone. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Brittany's laugh, saw Jeffrey's smug grin. My own son had turned me into a punchline. By dawn, something inside me had shifted. The grief hardened into something colder. Sharper. I'd spent my whole life being nice. Being the good mom. The selfless widow. The woman who never made waves. And where had it gotten me? Used. Mocked. Invisible. Not anymore. I made coffee and sat down with my laptop. Opened every financial account I had. Checked every linked card, every automatic payment, every authorized user. Here's what I'd forgotten. In my heartbreak and generosity, I'd added Jeffrey to several of my accounts years ago. Joint access on my main checking. An authorized user on 2 of my credit cards, the ones with high limits that I barely used. I'd done it after Daniel died, thinking if something happened to me, Jeffrey could handle things. Emergency access. He'd been using those cards for years. So had Brittany. I pulled up 3 years of statements. Restaurants I'd never been to. Stores I'd never shopped at. Flights. Hotels. That damn Rolex. All of it, charged to accounts that had my name on them but were being drained by two people who saw me as a joke. My hands shook as I scrolled. Not from sadness anymore. From rage. I opened a notepad and started documenting every charge. Every suspicious date. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I knew I needed evidence. Because if I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. Next, I called my bank. Told them I needed to remove an authorized user due to fraud concerns. The representative was sympathetic, efficient. Within an hour, Jeffrey's access was revoked from both credit cards. I didn't close them, just cut him off. Then I moved money. Transferred funds from our joint checking into a new account at a different bank, one only I controlled. Left exactly $500 in the old account. Enough that it wouldn't bounce any automatic payments Jeffrey had set up, but not enough to fund another vacation. Then I waited. I knew they had a trip planned. Jeffrey had mentioned it in passing weeks ago, some influencer event Brittany had been invited to in Charleston. They were leaving Friday. It was Wednesday. I thought about calling Jeffrey, confronting him, demanding an apology. But what would that accomplish? He'd gaslight me, tell me I'd misheard. Brittany would cry and say I was attacking her. They'd make me feel crazy, and within a month, I'd be writing another check just to smooth things over. No. If I'd learned anything from 30 years of marriage and 63 years of life, it was this: actions speak louder than words. And some people don't learn until they feel consequences. Still, part of me hesitated. He was my son. My only child. What if I was overreacting? What if this was just how kids talk sometimes, blowing off steam, not really meaning it? Then I remembered his voice on the phone. You should be grateful. I picked up my phone and texted Jeffrey. Hey honey, hope you and Brittany have an amazing trip this weekend. You two deserve it. Love you. He replied within minutes. Thanks mom. Love you too. No acknowledgement of our last conversation. No apology. Just cheerful entitlement. I set the phone down and felt the last thread of doubt snap. Friday morning, I woke up early. Made myself a proper breakfast, something I hadn't done in months. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit. I ate slowly, savoring every bite. Then I sat down and waited. The call came at 10:47 a.m. MOM. Jeffrey's voice was frantic, sharp with panic. What did you do? The cards aren't working. Mom and I are stranded here, unable to pay. We're at the hotel checkout and everything's being declined. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? I took a sip of my coffee. Let the silence stretch. Mom? MOM? Are you there? I'm here, I said calmly. What the hell is going on? Did you forget to pay the bills or something? Jesus, Mom, we're standing in a lobby with all our stuff and they won't let us leave until we settle the charges. Brittany's about to lose her mind. I could hear her in the background, shrill and furious. Jeffrey, I said, my voice steady, I didn't forget anything. I removed you as an authorized user on my credit cards. And I moved my money into a private account. Silence. Then, you what? I'm not your ATM anymore. What are you, Mom? This isn't funny. We have charges here. You need to pay for your own trip. Like adults. His voice dropped, turned cold. What is this about? Did Brittany say something to you? Because if she did. This is about me hearing exactly what you both think of me. 2 weeks ago, Jeffrey. I was in your condo. I heard everything. More silence. Longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Smaller. Mom. I didn't. You called me a pushover. Brittany called me a cash machine. You both laughed about how easy I was to manipulate. So I decided to stop being easy. Mom, please. We didn't mean it like that. We were just joking around. You know how Brittany is, she's got a harsh sense of humor, but... Do you know how much money I've given you in 3 years, Jeffrey? He didn't answer. $83,000. I liquidated investments. I delayed my own retirement plans. I said no to trips with my friends because I was helping you build a future. And you used that money to buy designer bags and take vacations while calling me a joke. Mom. His voice cracked, but I couldn't tell if it was genuine or performance. Didn't matter anymore. I think it's time you and Brittany figure out how to stand on your own feet. I'll always be your mother, Jeffrey. But I'm done being your bank. I hung up, turned off my phone. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt like I could breathe. If you've ever had to cut someone off, even someone you loved, to save yourself, let me know in the comments. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And if you want to hear more stories about taking your power back, check the description box below. The silence lasted 3 days. No calls. No texts. Nothing. I turned my phone back on Saturday evening, half expecting an onslaught of rage or guilt-tripping messages. But there was nothing. Just the usual spam and a message from my friend Linda asking if I wanted to go antiquing next weekend. I said yes. It felt strange, that silence. For 3 years, my phone had been a lifeline, or a leash, depending on how you looked at it. Jeffrey checking in, asking for things, sending photos of his life that I wasn't really part of but got to observe from a distance. Now, nothing. I told myself it was what I wanted. Space. Boundaries. Respect. But I'm not going to lie to you, it hurt. Because even when someone's using you, even when you know it's toxic, they're still there. And the absence of them leaves a hole. I filled it the best I could. I called old friends I'd been neglecting. I signed up for a pottery class at the community center. I started going to the farmer's market on Saturday mornings, something I used to do with Daniel but had stopped after he died because it felt too sad to go alone. Turns out, it wasn't sad at all. It was actually kind of nice. But still, every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. Part of me hoped it would be Jeffrey, apologizing, realizing what he'd done. Part of me dreaded it, knowing that any contact would just restart the cycle. The call finally came on Tuesday. Not from Jeffrey. From Brittany. I stared at her name on my screen for a long moment before answering. Hello. We need to talk. Her voice was ice. I'm listening. What you did was unacceptable. Do you have any idea what you put us through? We had to call my parents and beg them to wire us money. We couldn't check out of the hotel. We missed our dinner reservation. Jeffrey and I have been fighting non-stop since we got back, and it's your fault. I felt the old instinct rise up, apologize, smooth things over, make it okay. But I pushed it down. Brittany, I'm sorry your trip was disrupted. But I'm not sorry for setting boundaries. Boundaries. She laughed, sharp and bitter. Is that what you're calling it? You sabotaged us. You embarrassed us. And for what? Because you overheard us venting? Grow up. I heard you call me a cash machine. Oh, please. You're really going to act like you've never said anything harsh about anyone? We were blowing off steam. It didn't mean anything. It meant something to me. Well, congratulations. You've made your point. You've hurt Jeffrey deeply. He's barely eating. He feels betrayed by his own mother. Is that what you wanted? For a moment, guilt crashed over me. My son, hurting. Because of me. But then I remembered, she's too afraid I'll stop calling. Brittany, I said quietly, I've given you and Jeffrey almost everything I had. Not just money. Time. Emotional energy. I rearranged my life around being available for you both. And the moment I stopped, I became the villain. Do you see how that's not okay? You're his mother. You're supposed to support him. I did support him. For 34 years. But support doesn't mean letting myself be used. She exhaled sharply. Fine. You want to be like this? Cut us off over one stupid comment? Then fine. But don't expect us to come crawling back. Jeffrey's done. He said if you can't respect his marriage, then maybe you don't need to be in his life. The threat hung in the air. The ultimate weapon. You'll lose your son. And God, it hurt. It hurt so much I thought I might fold right there. But I didn't. Brittany, I love Jeffrey more than anything in this world. But I won't let him treat me like a wallet with a heartbeat. If he's done, then I guess he's done. But I'm not apologizing for having self-respect. She hung up without another word. I sat there, phone in hand, staring at the wall. And I cried. Not the raw, gasping sobs from 2 weeks ago. Just slow, quiet tears. Because even when you do the right thing, it doesn't always feel good. That night, I got a text from Jeffrey. Just one line. Asterisk, I can't believe you chose money over me. Asterisk. I stared at it for a long time. Thought about all the ways I could respond. But in the end, I just wrote back. Asterisk, I didn't choose money over you, Jeffrey. I chose myself. I hope someday you'll understand. Asterisk. He didn't reply. And slowly, painfully, I started to accept that maybe he wouldn't. But here's the thing I didn't expect. I started feeling lighter. The knot in my chest that had been there for years, the constant low-level anxiety about whether I was doing enough, giving enough, being enough, it started to loosen. I went to pottery class and made a lopsided bowl. I had coffee with Linda and actually laughed. I booked a trip to visit my college roommate in Arizona, something I'd been putting off because what if Jeffrey needed me? I was rebuilding my life. Without an audience. Without needing to justify my choices to anyone. And it felt good. If you've ever had to choose yourself over someone you loved, you know it's not about being selfish. It's about survival. Let me know in the comments if you've been there. I'd love to hear your story. And don't forget to check the description for more stories like this one. 3 months passed. I celebrated Thanksgiving with Linda and her family. Christmas at a cozy bed and breakfast in Vermont, surrounded by strangers who became temporary friends. New Year's Eve alone with a bottle of wine and no regrets. Jeffrey didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't acknowledge any of the holidays. I won't pretend it didn't hurt. Every year of his life, we'd had traditions. Pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving. Matching pajamas on Christmas Eve. Stupid, I know, but it was ours. Champagne at midnight on New Year's. This year, nothing. But I survived it. More than that, I started to thrive. I picked up painting again, something I'd loved in my 20s but had abandoned when life got busy. Turns out, I wasn't half bad. I joined a local women's investment group and started learning how to actually manage my money instead of just giving it away. I traveled. I read. I existed for myself. And then, in late January, my phone rang. Jeffrey. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Mom. His voice was small. Tired. Hi, sweetheart. Silence. Then, can we talk? In person. Of course. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our places. Neutral ground. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. He'd lost weight. Had dark circles under his eyes. Looked older somehow. We sat down. He ordered black coffee. Didn't touch it. I'm sorry, he said finally. I waited. God, Mom, I've been such an idiot. Brittany and we're separating. I felt a jolt of shock. Jeffrey. It's been coming for a while. Ever since Charleston. We got back and just started tearing each other apart. She blamed me for not standing up to you. I blamed her for how she talked about you. We've been hemorrhaging money trying to keep up appearances, and when your support stopped. He laughed bitterly. Turns out we couldn't afford our life. Any of it. We're selling the condo. I'm moving into an apartment. Brittany's moving back with her parents. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Not sorry I'd set boundaries, but sorry he was hurting. Don't be. You were right. About all of it. He finally looked at me. I used you. I let Brittany use you. And I convinced myself it was okay because I don't know. Because you're my mom and moms are supposed to give and never complain. Jeffrey. Let me finish. Please. He took a shaky breath. When you cut us off, I was so angry. I felt betrayed. But the truth is, I betrayed you. 4 years. I took your love and your money and your time and I gave you nothing back except the scraps of my attention. And when you finally said enough, I punished you for it. I'm ashamed, Mom. I'm so ashamed." Tears were running down his face now. Real ones. Not manipulation. Just raw, painful honesty. "I don't know if you can forgive me," he continued. "I don't even know if I deserve it. But I need you to know, I see it now. I see what I did. And I'm sorry." I reached across the table and took his hand. "I forgive you," I said. He broke down. Right there in the coffee shop, my 34-year-old son sobbed like a child. And I let him. Because sometimes that's what people need, to fall apart so they can build themselves back up. We talked for 2 hours. Really talked. I told him how small he'd made me feel. He told me how entitled he'd become, how Brittany had fed into his worst impulses but that he'd been a willing participant. We cried. We laughed. We started to heal. But I also made something clear. "Jeffrey, I love you. I will always love you. But things can't go back to the way they were. I'm not your safety net anymore. I'm not going to fund your life. If we're going to rebuild this relationship, it has to be as equals. Two adults who respect each other." He nodded. "I understand. And I don't want your money, Mom. I just want my mom back." That almost broke me all over again. We left the coffee shop with a plan. Weekly dinners. Honest conversations. Boundaries. It wouldn't be perfect. Healing never is. But it was a start. And you know what? In the months since, Jeffrey has shown up. Really shown up. He got a second job to dig himself out of debt. He started therapy. He asks about my life, not just as a formality, but because he genuinely cares. He's becoming the man I always believed he could be. Not because I gave him money, but because I stopped. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that cutting people off is always the answer. Every situation is different. But I will tell you this, you are not required to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Even if that someone is your own child. Even if you love them more than life itself. Because real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that matters, it doesn't come from transactions. It comes from respect. And respect has to go both ways. I'm 64 now. I have a life I actually enjoy. Friends. Hobbies. Plans. And yes, I have my son back, but a better version. One who sees me as a person, not a resource. And if you're in a situation where someone's draining you dry, where you feel invisible and used and afraid to speak up because you might lose them, let me tell you something, if setting a boundary makes you lose them, they were never really yours to begin with. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. And please, check the description box below for more stories about taking your power back and choosing yourself. You deserve to be more than someone's ATM. You deserve to be seen.